Do you want your terminal to start coding for you while you have coffee? Today we will try GitHub Copilot CLI, the Copilot version that runs in the terminal. I'll show you everything from installation, interactive mode, the required login for pro users, all the way to how to ask it to generate a full website with prompts and approve or reject dangerous commands. We'll also see how to connect an MCP server for live data and how to share your session. Ready to turn your terminal into your best pair programmer? Let's get started. Okay, let's talk about GitHub Copilot CLI. We're in the main directory of this project, which you can access via the URL you see on the screen. Basically, this project tells us that it lets you access the full power of the Copilot programming agent directly from your terminal. What does this mean? Well, as part of the official documentation for this repo, there's a link here that takes you to another documentation page, where you'll find a more detailed description of the service. Here we see information like supported operating systems, Linux, macOS, and Windows. And here comes a very important part, which is the usage modes. And here we have two main usage modes. The first is through an interactive mode, which is basically a window that asks you for additional instructions. You can have a kind of history with GitHub Copilot CLI to make different changes and more. It's similar to that terminal you see on the screen. And there's a second mode, which is the programmatic mode, where basically with a terminal command, you can specify what you want the Copilot engine to do. For example, here's an example where we specify the Copilot command, the prompt, and in this case, it's a very simple prompt. You can even assign some allowed tools, in this case, shell and git. Basically, there are two modes we can use. In this video, we will focus on analyzing the first mode, which is the interactive mode. The terminal installation for this tool is quite simple. Here in the official repository, we have all possible ways to install Copilot CLI. We see that it can be done via Winget if on Windows, via Homebrew for macOS and Linux, and also through npm in case that's how you'd like to do it. There's also a final option. If you want to install the script directly, you can do that as well. In my case, since I'm on a Windows device, I'll use the first command, copy it directly, and I've already opened a Windows terminal. So I simply paste the command. In my case, I already had this package or tool installed, so it tells me an existing package was found and is already installed. If you haven't installed it before, it will likely prompt you, or rather, show you the installation process for this tool. Once installed, the next step I recommend is to change the folder you're currently in. And why is this? Because whenever you start Copilot for the first time, or when you open a new folder, it asks if you want to trust that folder to make changes. If I run the tool now, the folder that would open is the root folder of my Windows profile, which I do not want. So, I change the folder, and once I'm in the folder I want to edit, I type Copilot, which is the name of the tool. Here we can see some things that are quite, well, here another a kind of history. Since I had previously run the tool, it's now asking if I want to trust the files in this folder, as I mentioned before. We have three options. The first is yes, the second is yes, and to remember this choice for future sessions, or no, in case we want to discard this folder and open a new one to make changes. So I'm going to indicate yes, I want to use this folder, and here comes another very important step, which is logging into my Copilot account. Why is this important? Well, according to the official documentation, up here we have information about who can use this feature. And this feature is enabled only for GitHub Copilot Pro, GitHub Copilot Pro Plus, GitHub Copilot Business, and GitHub Copilot Enterprise users. So you must have one of these plans to use the Copilot CLI. After validating this, in my case, I have a Pro Plus subscription. I will run the command and we can execute it using a / and the login command. In fact, if we start typing, you will see we get a filtered list of commands that allows us to quickly run any specific command. So I want to run this one called login. It asks whether it's a regular GitHub account or a business account. I'll indicate it's a regular GitHub account, and afterwards, we have to log in through the link shown here using this code. Once we've authenticated in GitHub, we can start using the tool. Some of the actions we can take to begin using it include, for example, using a question mark, which will show all the available commands and provide a brief description so you have more insight into what this tool can do. So let's close this help window, and the first thing I'm going to do is run a command called model. And if we run this command, you will see it lets us select a different model than the one currently selected. The default model in this specific case for my account is the Summit model, so I'll leave it selected. But if you wish to choose another model, it's also completely valid to use it. So here we already have the model that has been selected along with the respective amount of tokens that will be used. And once we have selected the model, we can start running some kind of command if we want to. Here we could execute a specific prompt, or we could run another command called plan, which will create an implementation plan for us. So I'm going to run this command, plan, and as you can see, in this case, it really didn't do anything because it's waiting for a prompt to be entered, as we can see on the screen. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste a prompt that I have previously prepared. It is a prompt that will allow me to create a web page. So I press enter, and this will basically start in the folder where we're currently located to create all the necessary files, the HTML, CSS, JavaScript code, or whatever code is needed. If you were to choose a different technology, it would do that as well. Now, as part of this process, you can see that sometimes Copilot asks us if we agree to perform certain actions. Remember that Copilot can actually perform actions that could be destructive if you are not careful with what you are doing. Therefore, it's always important to pay attention to what Copilot is doing, in this case, and to respond to the request to allow or deny the execution of commands. In this case, it asks me if I want to list the directories. I will say yes, and I can even indicate that the execution of this command should be approved for the rest of the current session. Then I press enter, and it will start analyzing the code structure, perform the necessary changes, create the necessary files, etc. Here, for example, as part of this process, once the folder analysis is done and based on the prompt we entered, it's asking me if I want to, or rather, it's asking me or giving me suggestions about what I actually want to achieve. For example, for a section called Products, it's asking if I want to display featured courses, like 3 to 5 with some details, or if I want a general overview. I'm going to select option 1. Here it's asking me again, this time for a section called Team, and so on. So I'll keep filling in this information, and I'll speed up the video so you don't get bored. At some point, it's also asking me if I agree with the implementation plan. If we're okay with it, we say yes or tell it to start working. Okay, after waiting a few minutes, we can see it now tells us that the site is ready to be published on the internet. And how does this site look? Well, I'll open it here, and you can see we have a website that looks quite good. We have some text here that was obtained thanks to the information from the website. We have an About section, a section of what is offered, featured courses. We have information here, categories, course names, we have instructor information, and well, it would only need some retouching with additional images or applying any theme if we want to improve it for publishing on the internet. I like how the site looks. It's very professional, done quickly in just a few minutes. And once we have created this website, what other commands can we check? Well, there's one called context, which allows us to know what the context window is for the current model we're using, which in this case is Cloud Sonnet 4.5. We see here that the tools and the system take up 12% of the context space, messages take up 22%, and we have 46% of free space left. That is, we could still add more instructions so that they remain as part of the history and continue modifying the website, adding functionalities, removing things we don't like, and so on. And the buffer also uses 20%. So, another quite useful command to see roughly how the model would behave based on what we've done. We also have another command called usage, which lets us know basically how the models have behaved, how many premium calls have been used in the project, the total time it has been used. Here we have the API usage time, the session time, 15 minutes, and more information about the model, which is quite useful to always know how many requests we have left, roughly how many we've used, and basically how much the project has consumed. For example, we also have another command called share, which allows us to copy all the information from the session in case we want to take it somewhere else to analyze it or to perform some kind of duplication, to replicate it, for example. And here we have the option to copy and paste it into a file or directly into a gist, since remember, we're linked to the GitHub account. If we press this command, you can see that a gist has been created directly here. I'm going to copy the URL, paste it, and here we see the entire session, all the session information. We have information about when it was done and how long it lasted. We have user instructions, reasoning, whether there was any kind of problem, and all the session information, which I find very useful in case we want to analyze what changes were made based on which instructions, and any other kind of analysis we want to perform, basically. Another thing we can also do is add MCP servers. How do we do that? With the command mcp add. This asks us for information about the MCP server that we are going to add. In my case, I have already prepared information for this server. For example, it's called CoinGecko. I'm going to enlarge this screen a bit, and once we have this information, it asks us for the type of server. In my case, I am going to press number 3 since it is an HTTP server. Next, we need to enter the remote URL. Here, I already have the URL prepared. It's the one you see on the screen. I will leave the rest of the information as it is, since we don't need to authenticate or anything additional. I'm going to press Ctrl+S to save the server, as the documentation instructs. Once we've done this, I'll paste the URL here, since I already had it ready, and I'll leave the remaining fields as they are, because we do not need authentication or any more information to be able to use this MCP server. Next, following the navigation instructions below, I'll press Ctrl+S. It's testing the connection, doing the corresponding setup, and you can see our first MCP server is now configured. Now, I'll exit this window and enter a new prompt asking to analyze today's cryptocurrency performance and show which are the best options to invest in. This should basically use the MCP server to obtain that information and provide me with a result. Let's see if it works correctly. Right now, we can notice that the CoinGecko MCP server is actually being used. How do we know? Because we have here information from some methods that basically retrieve data, like information from the coin market. You can see here the information being pulled from the MCP server, and this information will be used to give us a final response. Okay, after a few seconds or minutes of processing, here we have a report that has been generated thanks to all the information gathered, thanks to the servers or the MCP server from CoinGecko. I'm going to quickly go to the folder to check this file. Here we have the market report. We have some information here, obviously telling us not to blindly trust this report, and we see the best performing cryptocurrencies, or those that have shown the best performance and in which we could invest if we wanted to. Here are some coins. Honestly, I don't know them. And well, we also have coins that have not performed so well. We have the top cryptocurrencies according to market cap and other data that could help us make decisions about whether or not to invest in these cryptocurrencies, which is actually quite useful. And that's how we reach the end of this tutorial. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and share it with your contacts so they can learn more about these tools, which nowadays are indispensable. See you in the next video.